The sound of papers scattering across marble floors echoed through the mansion's grand foyer as 17-year-old Maya Miller stood frozen, clutching a DNA test report in her trembling hands. Behind her, the family dog Rex had just torn open a sealed envelope that had been hidden for years, revealing documents that would change everything. The wealthy businessman Robert Blackwood, who had tormented this girl for nearly a decade, stood pale-faced as his wife Eleanor gasped at the revelation before them. You won't believe what happened when Maya's 18th birthday arrived the next day, exposing secrets that would bring this powerful man to his knees and restore a daughter's rightful place in the world. But to understand how we got to this earth-shattering moment, we need to go back 9 years to when 8-year-old Maya first walked through those same marble floors, her small hand clutched tightly in the grip of social worker Mrs. Patterson. The little girl with dark eyes and tangled black hair had been bouncing between foster homes for 3 years after her parents died in a car crash, carrying nothing but a worn teddy bear and a heart full of hope that somewhere, someone would want her. Eleanor Blackwood had been trying to conceive for 7 years when she first saw Maya's photograph at the adoption agency. The elegant woman with soft brown hair and kind eyes had immediately felt a connection to this lost child who reminded her so much of herself at that age. Eleanor had grown up poor, the daughter of Chinese immigrants who worked 16-hour days at their small restaurant, and she understood what it meant to feel invisible in a world that seemed designed for others. "Robert, look at her," Eleanor had whispered to her husband, showing him the photo. "She needs us." Robert Blackwood, however, saw only an inconvenience. At 42, he had built his real estate empire from nothing, clawing his way up from a working-class neighborhood through sheer ruthlessness and an inability to form genuine emotional connections. His marriage to Eleanor had been strategic, her beauty and grace the perfect complement to his wealth and ambition. Children had never been part of his plan, especially not someone else's child. "Fine," he had said with the same tone he used to approve office supplies. "But this is your project, Eleanor. Don't expect me to play daddy to some stranger's kid." The day Maya arrived, the mansion felt different. Eleanor had spent weeks preparing the guest room on the 3rd floor, far from the master suite, where Robert insisted she be placed. She had chosen soft lavender paint for the walls and filled the space with books, art supplies, and stuffed animals, creating a sanctuary she hoped would help heal whatever wounds this little girl carried. Maya's first dinner at the mahogany dining table that could seat 20 people was a study in contrasts. Eleanor fussed over her, serving her favorite foods and asking gentle questions about school and her interests. Robert sat at the head of the table, methodically cutting his steak while treating Maya's presence like an unpleasant but temporary weather condition. "So, Maya," Eleanor had said warmly, "Mrs. Patterson told me you love to draw. I set up an art corner in your room." Maya's face had lit up for the first time since arriving. "Really? I used to draw with my mom. She said I had magic hands." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Maybe you can show me some of your drawings after dinner." Robert had looked up from his plate with cold blue eyes that seemed to see right through the child. "Just remember, this isn't a playhouse. There are rules in this home, and expensive things that don't need little hands touching them." The first few months had been a delicate balance. Eleanor worked tirelessly to make Maya feel loved and welcomed, taking her shopping for school clothes, helping with homework, and listening to stories about her dreams of becoming an artist. But whenever Robert was around, the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Maya learned quickly to make herself invisible when her adoptive father was present. She developed an almost supernatural ability to sense his mood and disappear into her room before his attention could settle on her with disapproval. But no matter how careful she was, she couldn't escape his cutting remarks. "Eleanor, why is that girl always underfoot?" he would say, never using Maya's name. "I nearly tripped over her toys in the hallway." "She's just playing, Robert. She's 8 years old." At 8 years old, I was working in my father's hardware store after school. Maybe it's time she learned some responsibility instead of making messes with those crayons. Maya would retreat upstairs, her cheeks burning with shame, while Eleanor would find her later, offering comfort and reassurance that felt increasingly hollow as the years passed. The breaking point came during Maya's 10th birthday party. Eleanor had planned a small celebration with a few children from Maya's class, complete with a princess-themed cake and decorations in the garden. Maya had been glowing with excitement for weeks, talking about her party with anyone who would listen. Everything was perfect until Robert arrived home early from the office, finding the house filled with children's laughter and Eleanor directing a treasure hunt on the perfectly manicured lawn. "What the hell is this circus?" he had demanded, his voice cutting through the children's happy chatter like a knife. Eleanor had rushed to his side, her face flushed with embarrassment. "It's Maya's birthday party, honey. I told you about it last week. You didn't mention it would be in MY garden, with these kids trampling MY grass and probably breaking MY property." 10-year-old Maya had been standing near the cake table when she overheard him talking to Eleanor in harsh whispers. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. Give that girl an inch and she thinks she owns the place. Next thing you know, she'll be expecting us to pay for college and weddings and God knows what else. She's not our real daughter, Eleanor. Stop pretending she is." The words hit Maya like physical blows. She stood frozen, watching her adoptive father storm into the house, while Eleanor made weak excuses to the other parents about an emergency. The party ended early, with confused children being picked up by their parents while Maya sat alone on the garden steps, staring at her untouched birthday cake. That night, as Eleanor tucked her into bed and apologized for Robert's behavior, Maya made a decision that would shape the next 8 years of her life. She would prove herself worthy. She would be so good, so helpful, so invisible when necessary, that even Robert Blackwood would have to love her eventually. But worthiness, Maya would learn, was not something that could be earned from a man whose heart had been hardened by years of seeing people as obstacles to overcome rather than souls to cherish. The humiliation started small, but grew more deliberate over time. When Maya brought home straight A's on her report card, Robert would glance at it dismissively and say, "I suppose the standards at that school aren't very high." When she won first place in the district art competition at age 12, he responded by hiring professional cleaners to repaint her room, claiming her art supplies had made it look like a daycare center. Maya's bedroom became her sanctuary and her prison. She spent countless hours there, perfecting her drawings and paintings, dreaming of the day when her talent would be so undeniable that even Robert would have to acknowledge her worth. She drew everything: portraits of Eleanor smiling, landscapes of places she dreamed of visiting, and countless self-portraits where she tried to capture the girl she hoped to become. Eleanor tried to shield Maya from the worst of Robert's coldness, but her efforts only seemed to make things worse. When she surprised Maya with art lessons from a local professional, Robert canceled them after 2 sessions, claiming they were an unnecessary expense for a hobby that won't pay bills. When Eleanor enrolled Maya in the school's advanced art program, Robert withdrew her, insisting she focus on practical subjects like business and mathematics. "She needs to learn the value of money and hard work," he would tell Eleanor during their increasingly frequent arguments. "Not waste time on fairy tales about becoming an artist." Maya developed coping mechanisms that broke Eleanor's heart. She learned to eat quickly and quietly at dinner, never asking for seconds, even when she was still hungry. She stopped talking about her art or her dreams, instead focusing on household chores and academic achievements that might earn Robert's approval. She became hyper-aware of the cost of everything, refusing new clothes or school supplies even when Eleanor offered them. The family's housekeeper, Maria Santos, a warm woman in her 50s who had worked for the Blackwoods for 15 years, became one of Maya's few allies. Maria had raised 4 children of her own and recognized the signs of a child trying too hard to be perfect. "Mija," she would say to Maya in the Kit Miller after school, "you don't have to earn love. Real love is given freely, like sunshine." "But what if you're not the kind of person who deserves sunshine?" Maya would ask, unconsciously echoing Robert's treatment of her. Maria would pull Maya into warm hugs that smelled like vanilla and lavender fabric softener. "Every child deserves sunshine, Maya. Every single one." But Maya's world remained divided between Eleanor's love and Robert's indifference, with an increasing understanding that she was somehow the cause of tension between her adoptive parents. She overheard their fights through the thin walls, Eleanor pleading for Robert to show Maya basic kindness while he accused his wife of enabling a stranger's child at the expense of our marriage. The worst incident came when Maya was 14. She had been working for months on a large oil painting of the Blackwood family mansion, intending it as a surprise gift for Eleanor's birthday. The painting captured every architectural detail with stunning accuracy, from the ivy climbing the brick facade to the way late afternoon light hit the windows. It was her best work yet, a masterpiece that demonstrated artistic skill far beyond her years. Maya had hidden the painting in the mansion's library, planning to present it at Eleanor's birthday dinner. But Robert found it first, discovering it while looking for a tax document he had misplaced. "Eleanor," his voice had boomed through the house. "Get in here now." Maya had been in her room doing homework when she heard the commotion. She crept downstairs to find Robert standing in the library, her precious painting in his hands. "What is this?" he demanded as Eleanor entered the room. "Oh my goodness," Eleanor breathed, seeing the painting. "Maya, this is incredible. Did you paint our house?" Maya nodded nervously, sensing the danger in Robert's rigid posture. "It's for your birthday, Mom. I wanted to give you something beautiful." "Beautiful?" Robert's laugh was harsh and mirthless. "This is what you call beautiful? Look at this, Eleanor. She's painted our house like some kind of fantasy cottage. This amateur garbage makes our home look like a tourist trap." "Robert, please. It's a wonderful painting. She worked so hard on it. She worked hard on wasting expensive art supplies that I paid for, creating something that makes our property look cheap and common. Is this what you want hanging in our home? This child's finger painting?" Maya watched in horror as Robert carried her painting out to the backyard. Eleanor followed, pleading with him to reconsider, while Maya trailed behind with tears streaming down her face. "Please," Maya whispered. "I'll do better next time. I'll practice more. Please don't." Robert threw the painting into the outdoor fireplace they used for entertaining guests. The flames caught the oil paint quickly, months of careful work disappearing in minutes while Maya collapsed on the patio, sobbing. Eleanor knelt beside her, pulling Maya into her arms while glaring at her husband with an expression of pure disgust. How could you? How could you destroy something so beautiful?" "Because it's not beautiful," Robert replied coldly. "It's a reminder that we're wasting time and money on a child who will never amount to anything more than mediocre. The sooner she learns that lesson, the better off everyone will be." That night, Maya made another decision that would define her teenage years. If she couldn't earn love through her art, she would earn it through perfect behavior, perfect grades, and perfect invisibility. She would become exactly what Robert wanted, a grateful, quiet presence who never caused problems or asked for anything. The transformation was heartbreaking to watch. Maya threw herself into her studies with obsessive intensity, earning straight A's in advanced classes while volunteering for every household chore Eleanor would allow. She stopped drawing entirely, packing away her art supplies in boxes that Eleanor secretly rescued and stored in the attic. She became polite, deferential, and utterly without the spark that had once made her special. Robert's behavior toward Maya evolved from indifference to active psychological warfare. He seemed to take pleasure in finding new ways to remind her that she was an unwelcome guest in what should have been her home. At dinner parties, he would introduce Eleanor as my wife and Maya as the child we took in, making sure everyone understood the distinction. When Maya's friends visited, he would make pointed comments about the cost of feeding extra people or the inconvenience of having teenagers in the house. "Maya," he would say in front of her classmates, "make sure your friends understand that we're not running a hotel here. There are rules about noise and cleaning up after yourselves." Maya's social life dwindled as she became too embarrassed to subject her friends to Robert's humiliations. She learned to make excuses for why she couldn't have people over and gradually stopped trying to maintain friendships that required any acknowledgement of her home life. Eleanor's attempts to intervene became less frequent as Robert's behavior toward her also grew colder. He blamed her for enabling Maya and accused her of prioritizing some stranger's child over their marriage. Eleanor began walking on eggshells, trying to protect Maya while avoiding the explosive arguments that would inevitably follow any sign of maternal affection. Maya's junior year of high school brought a new dimension to Robert's cruelty. As college applications loomed, he made it clear that he considered investing in Maya's education to be throwing good money after bad. "Community college," he announced during one family dinner. "That's more than generous for someone in her position. Eleanor, I don't want to hear any arguments about art schools or expensive universities. We've done enough." Maya's guidance counselor, Mrs. Jennifer Walsh, had been encouraging her to apply to prestigious art programs, having seen some of Maya's secret drawings that she continued to create in her bedroom late at night. Maya was forced to lie, telling Mrs. Walsh that she had decided to pursue business instead, breaking the older woman's heart in the process. "Maya," Mrs. Walsh had said gently, "I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've never seen talent like yours. Are you sure this is what you want?" Maya had nodded, unable to meet her counselor's eyes. "Art is just a hobby. I need to be practical." The words tasted like ash in her mouth, but she had learned that dreams were luxuries she couldn't afford. As Maya's 17th birthday approached, Eleanor made a decision that would set the stage for everything that followed. She had been quietly setting aside money for years, small amounts from her household budget that Robert never noticed. She also began researching Maya's biological parents, driven by a growing conviction that Maya deserved to know her true heritage. What Eleanor discovered would change everything, but she had no way of knowing that her investigation was about to intersect with secrets that Robert had been hiding for nearly a decade. Meanwhile, Maya continued her perfect performance of gratitude and invisibility, unaware that her 18th birthday was approaching with revelations that would shatter the carefully constructed lies that had shaped her entire adolescence. The family dog, Rex, a golden retriever who had been Eleanor's companion for 5 years, seemed to sense the growing tension in the household. Animals often perceive things humans miss, and Rex had developed an unusual habit of nosing around Robert's home office, particularly near a locked file cabinet that contained documents Robert preferred to keep private. Maya's 17th birthday passed with minimal acknowledgement from Robert, who gave her a $20 gift card to a bookstore with all the enthusiasm of someone paying a utility bill. Eleanor tried to compensate with a beautiful necklace and a homemade cake, but the celebration felt hollow and strained. "One more year," Maya whispered to herself that night, staring at her reflection in her bedroom mirror. "One more year, and then I can figure out who I'm supposed to be." She had no idea that the answer to that question was hidden in documents that would soon be dragged from their hiding place by a dog who refused to let sleeping secrets lie. What would you do if you discovered that everything you believed about your identity was built on lies? Tell us in the comments below. As Maya entered her final semester of high school, Robert's treatment of her reached new levels of calculated cruelty. He seemed determined to ensure that her 18th birthday would mark the end of any obligations he felt toward her, real or imagined. "I want this clear," he announced during a family dinner in February. "When you turn 18, you're an adult. That means adult responsibilities, adult expectations, and adult consequences. No more free rides." Eleanor's fork clinked against her plate as she set it down with trembling hands. "Robert, she's still in high school. She's still our daughter." "She's not our daughter," Robert replied with ice-cold precision. "She's a legal obligation that's about to expire. I've been more than generous for 10 years, Eleanor. It's time for her to understand how the real world works." Maya nodded dutifully, her face a mask of acceptance while her heart crumbled inside her chest. "I understand. I'm grateful for everything you've done for me." Robert's smile was sharp and satisfied. "Good. I'm glad we're all on the same page." But Eleanor was far from being on any page that Robert was writing. That night, she made a phone call that would set in motion the events that would destroy Robert's carefully constructed narrative about Maya's place in their family. The call was to Detective Michael Torres, a police officer who had worked Maya's parents' accident case 10 years earlier. Eleanor had found his contact information during her research into Maya's background, and something about the official reports had bothered her. There were inconsistencies in the paperwork, questions that seemed to have been answered too quickly, and a rushed quality to the investigation that didn't match the thorough work Detective Torres was known for. "Mrs. Blackwood," Detective Torres had said when she explained why she was calling. "I remember that case. Those were good people, the Millers. I always wondered what happened to their little girl. She's with us. We adopted her. But Detective Torres, I need to ask you something, and I hope you'll be honest with me. Was there anything unusual about their accident? Anything that didn't make sense?" There was a long pause before Torres replied. "Ma'am, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but that case has bothered me for 10 years. The evidence didn't add up the way the official report claimed. Someone wanted that investigation closed fast, and they had the influence to make it happen." Eleanor's blood ran cold. "What kind of evidence?" "The kind that suggested David and Lisa Miller were killed for a reason. and the kind that suggested someone very powerful had a motive to make sure their little girl never learned the truth about why her parents died. After hanging up, Eleanor sat in her bedroom for hours, processing the implications of what she had just learned. Maya's parents might have been murdered, and their killer might be someone with enough power and influence to cover up the crime and ensure the investigation was buried. The next morning, Eleanor made an appointment with the family lawyer, Thomas Mitchell, a man who had handled the Blackwood family's legal affairs for 15 years. She didn't tell Robert about the meeting, instinctively understanding that whatever she was about to uncover needed to be kept secret until she fully understood its implications. Mr. Mitchell, a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes, listened carefully as Eleanor explained her concerns about Maya's adoption and the circumstances surrounding her parents' death. "Eleanor," he said gently, "I need to ask you something, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. Are you prepared to learn information that might fundamentally change your understanding of your husband and your marriage?" Eleanor's hands were shaking as she nodded. "Yes, Maya deserves the truth, whatever it is." Mr. Mitchell opened a file that he had kept locked in his private safe for 10 years. "I've been hoping someone would eventually ask these questions. Robert made me promise never to discuss this with anyone, but my conscience has been bothering me for a decade." He spread several documents across his desk: property deeds, insurance policies, financial records, and a series of photographs that made Eleanor gasp in recognition. Maya's parents, David and Lisa Miller, owned a piece of property that Robert wanted very badly for one of his development projects. It was a small lot, nothing special to look at, but it was located at a crucial intersection that would have made Robert's planned shopping complex impossible to build without it. Eleanor stared at photographs of a modest house with a small garden where Maya had lived with her parents. They wouldn't sell. They refused every offer Robert made, no matter how much money he offered them. David Miller was a proud man who had built that house with his own hands. He told Robert that some things weren't for sale, that his family's home was more important than any amount of money. The lawyer pulled out another set of documents. 3 weeks after David and Lisa died in that car accident, Robert purchased their property from the estate for a fraction of what it was worth. The shopping complex was built 6 months later and has been one of his most profitable investments. Eleanor felt sick to her stomach. "You think Robert killed them?" "I think Robert paid someone to kill them," Mr. Mitchell said quietly. "And I think he arranged for Maya to be placed with your family to keep an eye on her, to make sure she never started asking questions about her parents' death or looking into their property holdings." The full horror of the situation began to dawn on Eleanor. He's not just indifferent to Maya. He's afraid of her. He's been emotionally abusing her for 10 years to keep her broken down and grateful, to make sure she never becomes strong enough to investigate her parents' death. Mr. Mitchell nodded grimly. "And there's more. Maya's parents had a life insurance policy that named her as the sole beneficiary. The money has been sitting in a trust fund for 10 years, earning interest. She's entitled to over $2 million, but Robert has been receiving annual statements as her guardian and has never told her about it." Eleanor's mind was reeling. "What else haven't you told me?" The lawyer pulled out one final document that made Eleanor's blood run cold. Maya's birth certificate. Her real one, not the amended version that was filed after the adoption. "Take a look at her parents' names." Eleanor studied the document, trying to understand what she was supposed to see. Then the names clicked into focus, and she understood why Mr. Mitchell had looked so troubled. "David Miller," she whispered. "Lisa Miller, formerly Lisa Blackwood. Robert's sister," Mr. Mitchell confirmed. "Maya isn't just an adopted daughter, Eleanor. She's Robert's biological niece. His own brother-in-law and sister stand in the way of his business deal, so he had them killed. Then he took in their daughter, not out of generosity, but to control her and make sure she never learned the truth about her inheritance or her family's murder." Eleanor felt the world spinning around her as the full scope of Robert's deception became clear. For 10 years, she had watched her husband emotionally torture his own niece, the orphan daughter of the sister and brother-in-law he had murdered for money. "There's one more thing," Mr. Mitchell said gently. "Maya's 18th birthday is next week. The day she turns 18, she legally becomes an adult and gains the right to access information about her parents' estate, including the circumstances of their death. Robert knows this. I think he's planning to get her out of your house before she has a chance to start asking questions." Eleanor stood up on unsteady legs, her mind racing with plans and possibilities. What do I need to do to protect her? We need proof, Mr. Mitchell replied. Everything I've told you is based on circumstantial evidence and my own suspicions. To actually bring Robert to justice, we need solid evidence that he was involved in David and Lisa's deaths. Eleanor thought about Detective Torres and his concerns about the rushed investigation. I might know someone who can help us find that proof. As she left Mr. Mitchell's office, Eleanor felt like she was seeing the world clearly for the first time in 10 years. Every cruel word Robert had ever spoken to Maya, every humiliation he had inflicted, every dream he had crushed, took on a sinister new meaning. He wasn't just an emotionally distant adoptive father. He was a murderer who had been systematically breaking down his victim's daughter to protect himself from justice. Eleanor drove home with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. Maya's 18th birthday was 6 days away, and Eleanor was going to make sure it became the day that brought justice for her parents and freedom from the man who had stolen everything from her. But Eleanor had no way of knowing that Robert had been monitoring her activities more closely than she realized, or that he had already put his own plan into motion to ensure that Maya's 18th birthday would be her last day in the Blackwood household. The next 3 days passed in a blur of secret phone calls, clandestine meetings, and careful preparation. Eleanor met again with Detective Torres, who agreed to quietly reopen the investigation into David and Lisa Miller's deaths. She worked with Mr. Mitchell to prepare legal documents that would transfer Maya's inheritance into her control the moment she turned 18. And she began documenting years of Robert's emotional abuse, preparing a case that would ensure Maya never had to see him again once the truth came out. Maya, meanwhile, noticed that something had changed in Eleanor's behavior. Her adoptive mother seemed more attentive than usual, more protective, and there was a new light in her eyes that Maya hadn't seen in years. "Mom," Maya had asked on the Thursday before her birthday, "is everything okay? You seem different." Eleanor had pulled Maya into a hug that felt like goodbye and promise rolled into one. "Everything's going to be okay, sweetheart. I promise. After this weekend, everything is going to be different." Maya had no idea how prophetic those words would prove to be. Can you guess what happens next? Drop your predictions below. Friday afternoon, the day before Maya's 18th birthday, Robert came home from work with an expression that Eleanor had learned to associate with his most dangerous moods. He had discovered that someone had been asking questions about the Miller family accident, and his paranoia was reaching critical levels. "Eleanor," he called as he entered the house, his voice sharp with barely controlled anger. "We need to talk. Now." Eleanor found him in his study, standing behind his mahogany desk like a general preparing for war. "What's wrong, Robert?" "Someone's been poking around in old police files, asking questions about Maya's parents. Do you know anything about that?" Eleanor forced her expression to remain neutral, though her heart was pounding. "No. Why would someone do that?" "Because Maya's about to turn 18, and certain people think she has a right to know about her inheritance." Robert's eyes were cold and calculating. "I've made arrangements to solve this problem permanently." "What kind of arrangements?" Robert pulled out a set of documents that made Eleanor's blood run cold. "Military school, a very exclusive, very remote military academy in Montana that specializes in troubled teens who need structure and discipline. Maya will be enrolled on Monday morning." "Robert, no. She's not troubled, and she's about to start her senior year of high school here. She can finish her education in Montana, far away from anyone who might fill her head with dangerous ideas about inheritances and investigations." Robert's smile was predatory. "I've already spoken to the admissions director. They're expecting her Sunday night." Eleanor realized that Robert was more desperate than she had understood. He was willing to kidnap Maya to prevent her from learning the truth about her parents. "She won't go willingly. She doesn't have a choice. I'm still her legal guardian for another 36 hours. After that, it won't matter what she wants, because she'll be locked away in an institution where no one will believe anything she says about her past." That evening, Eleanor made a decision that would require more courage than she had ever needed before. She called Detective Torres and Mr. Mitchell, explaining Robert's plan to send Maya away before she could learn the truth. "We're out of time," she told them. "Whatever evidence you've found, we need to act tomorrow." Detective Torres had been busy during the past week, quietly investigating the inconsistencies in the Miller family accident report. I've got enough to bring him in for questioning, but not enough to guarantee a conviction. We need something more concrete. Then we get it tomorrow. Eleanor replied with a determination that surprised even her. It's Maya's 18th birthday. If we're going to save her, it has to be then. Saturday morning dawned gray and overcast, as if the weather itself understood the importance of the day ahead. Maya woke up feeling strange, as though something fundamental was about to change in her life. She had no way of knowing that 3 different groups of people were preparing to converge on the Blackwood mansion before the day was over. Eleanor spent the morning baking Maya's favorite chocolate cake, trying to maintain the pretense of a normal birthday celebration while her nerves screamed with tension. Robert had left early for the office, claiming he had important business to handle, but Eleanor knew he was finalizing arrangements for Maya's forced departure. At noon, Maya opened her modest pile of birthday presents in the living room. Eleanor had given her a beautiful journal bound in soft leather, along with a set of professional art pencils that she had hidden from Robert. "I know you haven't been drawing lately," Eleanor said softly, "but I hope that maybe now that you're 18, you might want to start again." Maya held the art supplies like they were made of spun gold, tears forming in her eyes. "Mom, if Robert sees these..." "Robert doesn't get to control your dreams anymore," Eleanor interrupted with a firmness that surprised them both. "You're an adult now, Maya. You get to decide who you want to be." At 2 o'clock, as Maya was attempting to draw her first sketch in 4 years, the doorbell rang. Eleanor answered it to find Detective Torres standing on the porch with 2 other officers and a man in an expensive suit who introduced himself as District Attorney James Patterson. "Mrs. Blackwood," Detective Torres said formally, "we have a warrant to search the premises in connection with the deaths of David and Lisa Miller." Eleanor stepped aside to let them enter, her heart pounding with a mixture of terror and hope. "Maya," she called, "could you come downstairs, please?" Maya appeared at the top of the staircase, confusion written across her face as she saw the police officers in her foyer. "Mom, what's happening?" "Maya," Eleanor said gently, "these gentlemen are here to investigate what really happened to your parents 10 years ago." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She sank down on the stairs, her new art pencils scattering around her. "My parents? But they died in a car accident." Detective Torres climbed the stairs to sit beside her, his voice gentle but serious. "Maya, we have reason to believe that your parents were murdered and that the person responsible has been living in this house with you for the past 10 years. As if summoned by the accusation, Robert's car pulled into the driveway. He entered the house to find police officers searching his study while his wife and Maya sat together on the staircase, surrounded by scattered art supplies. "What the hell is this?" Robert demanded, his face flushing red with anger. "Eleanor, what have you done?" District Attorney Patterson stepped forward, holding a manila folder thick with documents. "Mr. Blackwood, you're under arrest for the murders of David and Lisa Miller." The words seemed to echo through the mansion's grand foyer as Robert's face went white with shock. "That's ridiculous. I had nothing to do with their accident." "It wasn't an accident," Detective Torres said firmly. "We found the man you paid to tamper with their car. He kept records, Mr. Blackwood. Very detailed records about how much you paid him and exactly what you wanted him to do. But then something incredible happened that no one had expected. Rex, the family's golden retriever, who had been agitated all morning by the presence of strangers in the house, suddenly bolted toward Robert's study. The dog had been nosing around that locked file cabinet for months, and the chaos of the police search had left it partially open. Rex grabbed something from the cabinet and ran toward Maya, dropping a sealed envelope at her feet before barking frantically, as if trying to communicate something urgent. Maya picked up the envelope with trembling hands. Her name was written on it in handwriting she recognized but couldn't place. With everyone watching, she tore it open to find a letter and several photographs that made her gasp in recognition. "My dear Maya," she read aloud, her voice growing stronger with each word. "If you are reading this, it means something has happened to your father and me, and the truth needs to be told." The letter was from Lisa Miller, Maya's biological mother, and it detailed everything. Robert's attempts to buy their property, his threats when they refused to sell, and her growing fear that he might try to hurt their family. We have hidden evidence of Robert's criminal activities in a safe deposit box at First National Bank. Maya continued reading. The key is taped under your bedroom windowsill, where we used to sit and watch the sunset together. If something happens to us, give this evidence to the police and know that we will always love you, no matter what lies Robert tells you about yourself or your worth. The room fell silent except for Maya's quiet sobs, as the full magnitude of Robert's deception became clear. He had murdered her parents for their property, taken her into his home not out of kindness, but out of fear, and spent 10 years systematically destroying her self-worth to ensure she would never become strong enough to investigate their deaths. Eleanor was on her feet, moving toward Maya with tears streaming down her face. "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I should have protected you better. I should have seen what he was doing." Maya looked up at Eleanor, then at Robert, who was standing frozen as police officers moved to handcuff him. "You killed them," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You killed my parents and then made me grateful to live in your house." Robert's facade finally cracked completely. "They were in my way," he shouted, his face flushed red with rage as he pointed at Emma with a trembling finger. "Everything I built, everything I worked for. She was going to destroy it all with her pathetic attempts at belonging." The room fell silent except for the sound of Robert's heavy breathing. Detective Morrison stepped forward, his hand resting on his radio. "Mr. Blackwood, I think you need to calm down and think carefully about what you're saying." But Robert was beyond reason now. The years of carefully constructed lies, the elaborate charade of being a loving father, the constant manipulation, it all came pouring out like water through a broken dam. "You don't understand. My real daughter, Sarah, she was supposed to inherit everything. But then this nobody shows up with her bleeding heart and her perfect grades, making everyone think she's some kind of saint." Emma's eyes widened as the pieces finally clicked into place. "Sarah, your daughter who died in the car accident. That's why you adopted me, wasn't it? To replace her." Dr. Harrison, who had been standing quietly near the window, suddenly stepped forward. His weathered face was pale, but his voice was steady. "Robert, stop this. You're only making it worse for yourself." "Shut up, old man." Robert spun around, his eyes wild. "This is your fault too. You and your meddling. Always telling Emma she was special. Always encouraging her dreams. You should have stayed out of it." Margaret Blackwood, who had been watching the scene unfold from the corner, finally found her voice. "Robert, please, just stop talking. You're scaring me." But Robert was in full confession mode now. 20 years of buried guilt and resentment erupting like a volcano. She was never supposed to matter. She was supposed to be grateful, quiet, invisible. But instead, she excelled at everything, made friends with everyone, turned my own wife against me. Detective Morrison was taking notes now, his pen scratching rapidly across the paper. "Mr. Blackwood, you're admitting to psychological abuse of a minor. I strongly suggest you contact a lawyer." "I don't need a lawyer." Robert's voice cracked. "I did what any father would do. I protected my family's legacy from an outsider." Emma felt tears streaming down her face, but they weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of relief, of validation, of finally understanding that none of it had ever been her fault. "You made me believe I was broken," she whispered. "For years, I thought something was wrong with me, that I wasn't worth loving." Thomas stepped protectively beside Emma, his jaw clenched. "You destroyed an innocent child's sense of self-worth because you couldn't deal with your own grief." Robert laughed bitterly. "Innocent? She manipulated everyone. Look how she's turned you all against me." Dr. Harrison shook his head sadly. "Robert, the only person who turned us against you was you. Emma never said a single negative word about you, even when we could see what you were doing to her. That's because she's manipulative." Robert's voice was reaching a fever pitch. She knew exactly how to play the victim. Margaret finally broke her silence, her voice shaking with emotion. "Robert, stop it. Just stop. I can't listen to this anymore." She turned to Emma, tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I knew something was wrong, but I was too afraid to admit it to myself." Emma looked at the woman who had been the closest thing to a real mother she'd ever known. "Margaret, this isn't your fault either. He manipulated all of us." The sound of additional footsteps in the hallway announced the arrival of more people. Attorney Williams entered first, followed by a woman in her 30s with kind eyes and professional attire. I'm Dr. Sarah Miller from Child Protective Services, the woman announced, showing her credentials. We received a report about this situation. Robert's face went white. Child Protective Services? She's 18. You have no jurisdiction here. Actually, Mr. Blackwood, we do, Dr. Miller replied calmly. When there's evidence of long-term psychological abuse, we investigate regardless of current age. The statute of limitations for emotional abuse extends well beyond the victim's 18th birthday. Attorney Williams stepped forward with another folder. And I have some additional documents that shed light on this situation. He pulled out a thick manila envelope. Dr. Harrison, would you like to explain this to everyone? Dr. Harrison's eyes crinkled with something that might have been satisfaction. Of course. He turned to face Robert directly. You see, Robert, you made one critical error in your years of psychological torture. What are you talking about, old man? You assumed Emma would never fight back, never seek help, never discover her own worth. Dr. Harrison's voice grew stronger. But Emma has been seeing me for counseling for the past 2 years, and during that time, she's documented every single incident of your abuse. Emma nodded, her voice growing steadier. Every cruel comment, every public humiliation, every time you made me feel worthless, I wrote it all down. Dr. Harrison helped me understand it wasn't normal, wasn't my fault. Robert stumbled backward. You were spying on me? I was protecting myself, Emma replied firmly. Because deep down, I always hoped someone would believe me. Thomas squeezed Emma's hand. And we do believe you. Everyone in this room believes you. Attorney Williams opened another folder. But that's not all, Robert. You see, while you've been busy tearing down Emma's self-esteem, you've also been making some very interesting financial decisions. Robert's face went from white to gray. I don't know what you're talking about. The college fund that was set up for Emma by her biological parents before they died, the one you told her never existed? We found it. $50,000, plus 18 years of compound interest. It's now worth over $200,000. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Emma's mouth fell open. My parents left me money? They did indeed. Attorney Williams continued. Money that legally belongs to you. Money that was supposed to pay for your education and help you start your life. Money that Robert has been using for his own expenses for the past decade. Robert's legs seemed to give out, and he sank into a chair. That money, it was just sitting there. We had expenses. It wasn't yours to touch, Detective Morrison said, making another note. That's embezzlement and theft from a minor's trust fund. Both felonies. Dr. Miller stepped closer to Emma. There's more, Emma. We also discovered that your biological parents had extended family who've been looking for you for years. Emma's world tilted. Family? I have family. Your mother's sister, Linda Morrison, lives in California. She's been searching for you since the adoption was finalized. She never stopped believing you were out there somewhere. Robert jumped to his feet again, desperation replacing his earlier rage. You can't do this. I raised her. I gave her a home. You gave her a prison, Dr. Harrison said quietly. And now it's time for her to be free. Margaret stepped forward, her voice barely a whisper. Emma, I want you to know. I tried to protect you when I could. When Robert would go too far, I would try to make it up to you somehow. Emma looked at Margaret with compassion. I know you did. The birthday cakes you made in secret, the encouraging notes you left in my room when he wasn't looking, I noticed. It meant everything to me. Thomas looked around the room, then back at Emma. So what happens now? Attorney Williams smiled for the first time that day. Now Emma takes control of her own life. The trust fund will be released to her immediately. She can pursue whatever education she wants, and she has family who've been waiting to welcome her home. Robert made one last desperate attempt. Emma, please. I know I wasn't perfect, but I did care about you. Don't let them turn you against me completely. Emma looked at him for a long moment, and something in her expression had changed. The frightened, apologetic girl was gone, replaced by a young woman who had found her strength. Robert, I don't hate you. I pity you. You had the chance to love someone who would have loved you back unconditionally, and instead you chose cruelty. That's something you'll have to live with for the rest of your life. She turned to Detective Morrison. What charges will he face? Embezzlement, psychological abuse, theft from a minor's trust fund, and possibly fraud, depending on how he filed taxes claiming the trust fund money, the detective replied. He's looking at significant jail time. Dr. Miller handed Emma a business card. Emma, I want you to know that what happened to you wasn't your fault, and you're incredibly brave for standing up for yourself. The counseling you've been receiving has clearly helped you develop remarkable strength." Emma nodded, then looked around the room at all these people who had rallied to support her. "I never thought I'd have this many people believing in me at once." "You deserve so much more than believing in," Thomas said softly. "You deserve to be celebrated." Dr. Harrison walked over to Emma and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "My dear, you've taught an old psychologist something important today. You've shown me that resilience isn't just about surviving difficult circumstances. It's about maintaining your capacity for love and compassion even when others don't deserve it." Margaret approached hesitantly. "Emma, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know that watching you grow into the remarkable young woman you are has been one of the greatest privileges of my life. I'm ashamed I didn't protect you better." Emma hugged Margaret gently. "You did what you could in an impossible situation. I don't blame you." Attorney Williams cleared his throat. "If I may, Emma, there are some practical matters we should discuss. Your Aunt Linda is on a plane as we speak. She'll be here tomorrow morning. She's been planning for this moment for 18 years. Emma's eyes filled with tears again, but these were tears of joy. "She really wants to meet me?" "She's never stopped loving you," Attorney Williams replied. "She has photo albums, letters she wrote, but could never send, birthday presents she bought every year, hoping someday she'd see you again." The weight of this revelation hit Emma like a wave. She had family who had been thinking about her, loving her from a distance, never giving up hope. "I can't believe this is real." Detective Morrison approached Robert, who was still sitting in the chair looking defeated. "Robert Blackwood, you're under arrest for embezzlement, theft from a minor's trust fund, and psychological abuse of a child." As the handcuffs clicked into place, Robert looked up at Emma one last time. "I hope you're happy now." Emma met his gaze steadily. "I hope I will be. And someday, Robert, I hope you find a way to be happy too, without hurting other people." Even as he was being arrested, Robert was struck by her grace. After years of cruelty, she was still capable of wishing him well. It was perhaps the first time he truly understood what he had lost. Dr. Miller addressed the group. "There will be an investigation, and Emma, you may be called to testify. But you should know that this case will help other children in similar situations. Your courage to speak up will make a difference." As Robert was led away, the room felt lighter somehow. Thomas turned to Emma. "So what's the first thing you want to do with your freedom?" Emma thought for a moment, then smiled. "I want to call my aunt. And then, I want to go to college. I want to study psychology like Dr. Harrison. I want to help other kids who feel as lost as I did." Dr. Harrison beamed with pride. "The world needs more people like you, Emma. People who can transform pain into purpose." Margaret wiped tears from her eyes. "Emma, the house, it's half yours legally. Your biological parents left it in trust. Robert can't touch it now." Emma looked surprised. "I have a house too." "You have choices," Attorney Williams said. "You can sell it, live in it, rent it out. It's entirely up to you." The magnitude of her new reality was overwhelming, but in the best possible way. Emma looked around at all these people who had fought for her, stood up for her, believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. "You know what I want to do first?" she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I want to have a real birthday party. Not one where I'm made to feel grateful just for being tolerated, but one where I'm celebrated for exactly who I am." Thomas grinned. "Now that sounds like the Emma I fell in love with." Dr. Harrison chuckled. "Well then, my dear, it sounds like we have a party to plan." As the group began to disperse, Emma felt something she had never experienced before, the solid ground of people who loved her unconditionally beneath her feet. For the first time in her life, she was truly home. The epilogue of Emma's story began that very evening. Her Aunt Linda called from the airport, and they talked for 3 hours straight, crying and laughing and filling in 18 years of lost time. Linda had Emma's mother's eyes and her father's laugh, and she told Emma stories about her parents that filled the empty spaces in her heart. Within a week, Emma had enrolled in college with a full scholarship funded by her own trust fund. She chose to study psychology with a focus on childhood trauma, determined to help other children who had experienced what she had. Robert received 5 years in prison for his crimes. Margaret testified on Emma's behalf during the trial, finally finding the courage to tell the truth about what she had witnessed over the years. The conviction made headlines. Local businessman sentenced for years of psychological abuse of adopted daughter. Emma used her platform to speak about childhood emotional abuse, helping to change laws in 3 states about psychological welfare checks for adopted children. Her story was featured in national magazines and inspired the creation of support groups for survivors of psychological abuse. Thomas proposed on Emma's 19th birthday, in front of all her new family and friends. Dr. Harrison walked her down the aisle at their wedding, and her Aunt Linda stood as matron of honor. Even Margaret was there, having found her own healing through therapy and making amends where she could. Emma never did end up hating Robert. 2 years into his sentence, she visited him in prison once. He had aged tremendously and seemed smaller somehow, diminished by the loss of all his facades. "I don't know why you came," he said, unable to meet her eyes. "Because holding on to anger hurts me more than it hurts you," Emma replied. "I came to tell you that I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine." Robert cried that day for the first time in decades, finally understanding the magnitude of what he had thrown away. Emma graduated summa cum laude with her psychology degree and opened her own practice specializing in helping children and families heal from emotional abuse. She named her clinic the Morrison Center for Family Healing, after her biological parents and the detective who had helped bring her justice. Dr. Harrison, now in his 70s, came out of retirement to work part-time at Emma's clinic. "You've given an old man a new purpose," he told her on the day they cut the ribbon for the center's grand opening. Emma and Thomas had 2 children of their own, and Emma made sure they grew up knowing they were celebrated every single day. She told them often that love wasn't something you had to earn. It was something you deserved simply for being yourself. On quiet evenings, when Emma tucked her children into bed and kissed their foreheads goodnight, she sometimes thought about that frightened 18-year-old girl who had once believed she was unworthy of love. That girl had found her voice, claimed her power, and transformed her pain into a purpose that helped countless others. And that's how justice was served, not just through courts and consequences, but through the triumph of love over cruelty, hope over despair, and the unbreakable strength of the human spirit to heal and help others heal. Sometimes karma takes time, but it never misses. Subscribe for more incredible stories of justice and redemption. And remember, if you're facing a situation like Emma's, you're not alone, and you deserve better. Hit that like button if Emma's story touched your heart, and let us know in the comments what you would have done in her situation.